can we afford the government? How did we afford the government before 1913? We survived a good many years and had good economic growth. And even if we got rid of the income tax today, the $1 trillion or so that we would have less for the government, the federal government would still have as much as they had 10 years ago. Don't you think the government was way too big 10 years ago? So this is, there are definitely ways that we can work our way out of this. But you know, it's the mental status of the American people that came about after 9/11. We can't ignore 9/11. Matter of fact, we have a tough time with 9/11 because they use it against us. They say that if we don't support tyranny and the Patriot Act and all these violations of our civil liberties, we're not patriotic. Contrary to this, that we have to explain fully and make it very clear that to defend liberty, you never have to give up any of your safety and security. Safe and secure, what we better do is just take close notice of the Second Amendment, and I think we would realize how we can be safe and secure. Certainly 9/11 did change a lot. There's no doubt about it, and they use an excuse for everything. But you know, the plans were in place a long time before 9/11. I think Paul O'Neill really had some revealing remarks in his biography, because he said at the very first meeting in January of '01, the subject came up: when are we going to hit Iraq? You know, when are we going to have regime change in Iraq? And that was a long time before 9/11. So the plans were laid a long time before. They didn't completely write the Patriot Act brand new. Those plans had been laid before. And there were a lot. The neoconservatives did not hide from the fact that you're supposed to use opportunities, and they did see that 9/11 presented an opportunity for them to advance their cause, whether it was striking in the Middle East or further attack of our civil liberties. And this is very, very dangerous. I think we've seen some very dangerous trends, whether it's the Patriot Act, the Military Commissions Act, and all the things that have gone on. The Fourth Amendment is essentially gone, and this is a very, very serious problem. We have virtually now legislated that we will have a national ID card with radio frequency. We have a major task. Posse Comitatus, as well as the Insurrection Act, has been virtually abolished. But one thing I can guarantee you, with all those laws in the book, if I am to be the president, there's nothing that says that I have to enforce unconstitutional law. If the state comes along and legalizes the use of certain substances, the federal government has no right to come in and override any I've always been bewildered by the slogan that conservatives should be compassionate, and then I find out what they do. California and other states have come along and said, you know, in a very, very conservative manner, they said, well, you know, under certain circumstances, doctors can allow patients who are dying with AIDS and cancer to have marijuana. But the federal government comes in and overrides the state law, arrests individuals, never committed a violent act, and put people that are sick in prison. That doesn't sound very compassionate. But, you know, and that is, most people in this country think this is the way the country's been all along. But you know, up until 1937, there were no laws against marijuana use. And the issue here is not the pros and cons of drugs and whether you should or should not. The issue is who's to make the determination, who's to make these decisions for us. It should be the individual, and if you make bad mistakes, you have to suffer the consequences. legislate virtue is not something that we should endorse, that we should reject in its entirety. This idea that individuals can legislate virtue is sort of like some liberals who say we will legislate equity and fairness and prosperity equally for everybody. Sounds good, but it's total nonsense. And it also applies to foreign policy, that out of our goodness of our heart, all the goodness of America, we're going to take and we are going to force ABC country to do exactly as we do because we are so great and so good. This cannot be done without the total rejection of what we stand for, and ultimately leads to this disaster that we're facing today. So the difficulties are out there, the problems are there, but really the solutions aren't that difficult. The solutions are rather clear to us. We embarked on a rather correct course. It was far from perfect. The Constitution was far from perfect. But it had turned out to be one of the best, if not the best, agreement between the people and the government. But we have abandoned that. Whether it's the legislative branch, we criticize a lot the current administration, but it's many, many administrations, many, many Congresses, and many, many judicial officials that have gotten us to this point. So what we need to do is revive the love of liberty once again in the hearts of all Americans. We have to realize that we're not really going backwards. This idea that we're going backwards to something ancient in some type of an isolationist type of area, it isn't true at all. What we want to do is actually promote what was a grand experiment that we have rejected. Our generation, the last several generations have rejected these notions. And what we're trying to do in this wonderful revolution that we're revitalizing is this promotion and confidence that freedom really works. That have happened in the campaign is how I witnessed the bringing of people together with this message. And many of you already knew that, and you understand that. But when we go to other audiences, when we go to liberal campuses that we think we're either going to get a very small crowd or a crowd that's stereotyped, we bring a lot of people together. And I know you understand this, but I hope that this campaign and this effort and the continuation of this effort by all of you will put liberty, put the concept back together again. It's not chopped up in pieces. Foreign policy doesn't sit over here, and personal liberty doesn't sit over here, and economic liberty over here, and different people defending different branches. It's all one thing. We as individuals deserve our right to our life and the right to our liberty. Yeah!